2011 had been a violent year for 600 and their enemies. After losing numerous prominent members, Baldy, D-Thang and Lil Steve, the crew would be in a perpetual state of mourning. Unfortunately, moving into 2012, the violence would continue, and the killings 600 members had committed against their various enemies surrounding them would eventually see a response. Just 3 months after the murder of T-Streets and Tutu, on the 2nd of February 2012, which would also happen to be T-Streets' birthday, according to a police report shared on Reddit, 600 affiliate Shaq had been attending a party that night. After the party, as he was heading home with a girl, a lone gunman would surprise them in an alleyway. Police would reportedly be notified about a shooting on the 5900 block of South Calumet Avenue, 59th Street, marking the border between the territories of 600 and MOB. And there, the police would find 19-year-old Shaq, who according to the newspapers had already passed away from multiple gunshot wounds, including one to the head. However, the official police report states that Shaq was only hit once in the upper left of his back. But regardless of the specifics, Shaq would ultimately pass away from the shooting, and 600 members would be left mourning. While Shaq's murder would officially go unsolved, 051 would seemingly take responsibility for the hit. Little over a month after Shaq's death, 051 member Boom would release a music video for his song, I'm In It, and the video begins with a clip of 051 members taunting their ops, saying they're BDK, with 051 Kiddo aiming his diss directly at 600, saying, 600, we dropping them boys.
Drillers, freedom gas, man, BDK, man, no 06 photo. As always, drop money, but can't come out the date though, man. I hear fake like gangsters and real young money, no.
We're CDK, we're CDK.
But there was one man from 051 in particular who would talk about Shaq religiously on social media, and that man was infamous 051 member Melly, who implied that Shaq had been killed while peeing outside of the party, even going as far as to say that he heard his last words and claiming direct responsibility for the murder. In the years following Shaq's death, Melly would constantly diss Shaq on Twitter and give detailed descriptions about where and how he died, tweeting that his ops are DMing him about Shaq, telling his ops to go and ask the woman what happened when he caught Shaq using the bathroom, and Melly even went as far as to vaguely confess to the murder in direct replies to other 600 members replying to his tweets. It's also suspected that 051 Kiddo may have been closely involved in the murder of Shaq too, as he would also be seen disrespecting his death and taunting 600 members about the incident, tweeting that he would kill Shaq, then forget all about it. Mocking him for getting caught without a gun, Shaq was saying, "Die young money," until he died himself. Melly would even post a video to social media of him explaining to a little girl how he had done the killing.
Know how I play out here. You don't come with that money, shawty. Come up and done missing. You talking? You don't know who I am?
Tell him stop playing with her.
You don't know who I am?
No. I know my daddy.
You scared of the dark?
No.
I'm one of them type of guys that be in the dark waiting for you when you gotta go pee at night.
Oh my God.
And I just get you, and you don't never come back to your parents again.
No, you're not going.
You hear me? Then your TT ain't gonna be able to save you. Your daddy, he gonna be crying somewhere like, man, she don't got nothing to do with me.
This is honestly one of the most twisted and disturbing things I've ever seen in a Chicago drill story, and it just goes to show you how messed up of a guy 051 Melly must have been. But despite all of the self-incrimination, Melly would never be charged for the killing of Shaq, and Reddit sleuths would later uncover that at the time of Shaq's murder, Melly was in fact living in 600's territory, something that Melly would confirm in a 2012 Twitter post. Ultimately, 051 Melly would go on to become one of Chicago's most prolific killers in the drill scene, with speculation that he may well have personally been responsible for as many as 8 or 9 murders, beginning with Shaq, with all of these supposed killings earning Melly the chilling nickname the Gravedigger of Chirac. But more on that later, as after the murder of Shaq by 051 Melly, 600 members would be looking to exact revenge, which would ultimately come around 4 months later, when 600 would catch prominent 051 members committing one of the most infamous murders of the entire war. According to the police reports, on the 22nd of June 2012, at around 8:40 p.m, a 14-year-old 051 member known in the streets as Fathead, real name Antonio Davis, was walking on the 7000 block of South Union Avenue in the Englewood neighborhood with his female cousin. According to the cousin, a silver minivan would slowly drive past the two while the driver looked at Fathead and his cousin very closely. The witness also noted that the passenger had his face covered. The van then took a turn while Fathead and his cousin continued walking. A moment later, one of those passengers of the car would appear on foot, approaching the pair with his hands in his pocket. The man would then pull a silver handgun from his pocket and shoot Fathead before standing over him and shooting around 7 more times. The shooter would then flee, getting back into the van and escaping the scene. Fathead would succumb to his gunshot wounds and pass away, and this particular Friday evening was incredibly violent, even by Chicago standards, with another 13 people actually getting wounded by gunfire. But the murder of Fathead, just 4 months after the murder of Shaq, appeared to be a targeted revenge killing related directly to this feud. And following the murder, 600 members would begin dissing Fathead constantly on social media and implying their involvement throughout 2012 and 2013. C-Day would even put Fathead's name in his Twitter bio and reply to somebody who was upset about this that he saw something they didn't, as well as asking his followers if they would like to get a Fathead special with as Zeke Fries, referring to another dead Young Money member, Zico, who is considered to be the first casualty of the war between 051 Young Money and THF 46, raging between these rival sets around Washington Park. But the craziest part about C-Day dissing Fathead so brazenly was that only a few weeks before that murder, C-Day had seemingly already been investigated in relation to another murder, perhaps that of Tutu at the end of 2011. Other members would also continue to taunt and disrespect Young Money on social media, such as 600 member Face, who was filmed visiting his chicken spot in Young Money's hood and asking for a Fathead sandwich.
What you want that face? You want that? Oh yeah, face sandwiches, guys. Oh damn. Hey, what you say? The fattest one. You say the worst? Y'all ain't got no tutu.
Inky D would up the ante by heavily implying that D-Rose and C-Day were responsible for killing Fathead, tweeting that D-Rose and C-Day put 8 in his face. Police reports would later reveal that authorities actually believed that 600 members C-Day and S. were both involved in the murder, and they were eventually taken into custody and interrogated, together with 2 Lamron 300 members, one of them known as Lamron OJ, real name Marvin Riley, referred to in the police report by his nickname, Boo Man. The report shows how C-Day's fingerprints and phone were found in the van that the killers were allegedly driving. In fact, it was this phone that would originally begin to tie C-Day to the murder in the summer of 2012. As many drill fans know, leaving his phone at the scene of crimes would later become somewhat of a hallmark of C-Day during his alleged hits, with this ultimately being his downfall. But interestingly, not long after C-Day was first interrogated about the murder, the police would receive information from a female that was arrested for a retail theft. The female would relate to the police a Facebook message that she received from a person who would talk about Fathead, claiming that her friends had allegedly killed him. The message would claim that Fathead was killed for no reason, suggesting they killed him because he was lacking on the wrong street. Later in 2012, the police would also hear from a witness who had recognized the driver of the van as S. after seeing his music video for the song 600 Boy. S. would first deny knowing either C-Day or OJ and would claim he didn't personally know Fathead, but he did know that he was dead. However, he would later admit to knowing C-Day, but not OJ. The case against C-Day, on the other hand, would further move forward as OJ from Lamron, who was also allegedly involved in the hit, told police that he heard C-Day was involved. However, as the police know, OJ had inadvertently seen C-Day also being interrogated, and only after this he would tell detectives that he heard from somebody that C-Day was the shooter after hearing C-Day was in custody. However, based on the height of the shooter identified by one of the witnesses and another third-party witness saying that OJ had bragged about doing the murder, the police thought that it was OJ who was likely the shooter. But in the end, none of the witnesses could positively identify the shooter, and none of the suspects would fully agree to cooperate against anyone else, and thus the case ultimately remained unsolved. But nevertheless, after rumors of OJ making a statement against C-Day became public years later, after the paperwork was released, he was ridiculed by fans and other Lamron members alike. For example, in Lil Durk's song David Ruffin, he references a friend describing a witness, with many fans suspecting that these lyrics may have been actually aimed at OJ. Chubbs from Lamron also called OJ disloyal, and in response to these allegations, OJ responded on Instagram with several posts alleging his loyalty to his set and claiming to still be solid. The controversy has also not stopped OJ from repping Lamron, and he's still seemingly associated with many of the members and claims Lamron 300 in his IG bio. But when it comes to 600, besides the social media antics, the members would seemingly stay relatively low-key in the streets for the rest of 2012, perhaps because they knew the authorities were looking at them closely. However, unfortunately for 600, their ops were not staying low-key, as they were looking to avenge the murder of Fathead, and ultimately they would get their chance by the end of 2012. According to 600 members like Tay600, around 2011, a young man by the name of Trey Henry, aka Trix, would begin to hang out with 600 members in their area. He was a relatively new face in their hood, and one of the first sightings of Trix can actually be seen in the music video for the song Man Down by Booker, C-Day and Rondo that was published in November 2011. As a new member, Trix would have to earn the respect of the others to be part of the group, but unlike Lil Steve, who became almost immediately respected despite his short time in 600, Trix would have a harder time fitting in as he was more quiet and often behaved in a way that others might find strange.
But Trix really never spoke for himself, you feel me? Like, he ain't gonna like never really spoke for himself. He was actually how he was in person. He was very quiet, you know. He was like, you know, you like a little weird, you know. He was weird, quiet, you know. Just like how it was back in our day. Like, it wasn't too many like Trix walking around, for like, I ain't even gonna lie, for like he used to bring attention to himself from us just because we thought, like, why the f do you be acting how you act, bro? Like, we in the hood. Like, I just, it's like, I'm just like, damn, bro, you, okay. What's to you? You know, like, what's to you, fo? Like, what is you on type? Like, why is you so damn, like, eccentric, fo? Like, he was just different. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like, this used to be tweeting about Pop-Tarts, like, bro, we getting shot at, it's dying, you on the net, we on this, damn, before they kill one of the guys, he on that. I wonder if they're gonna come out with a new Pop-Tart. Ooh, Snickerdoodle Pop-Tart. he man, vote. That man be on that thinking about new Pop-Tart ideas, fool. Like, they should just drizzle Pop-Tart. They should come out, like, I ain't gonna lie. If he would have been alive for them new Pop-Tart bites, he would have been on the Twitter tweeting about them on phone.
Later, Trix would get a car, which was not common amongst other members, and according to Tay, was a bad sign, as he knew that others would now try and take advantage of Trix.
And this really got stuff with Trix a lot, though. I ain't gonna lie, because like when that really happened, folks, like when he got the traffic, it was really crazy. When he got that traffic, the users from the block, they really used folks then, for I ain't even gonna lie.
Indeed, C-Day would seemingly begin to hang out with Trix at this point, often using him as a driver when trying to catch 600's enemies in the streets. Unfortunately, this may have ended up being Trix's downfall, as the enemies would undoubtedly begin to take note of his car whilst he and C-Day were sliding in their neighborhoods. And then, on the morning of November 1st, 2012, only about a year after Trix had seemingly joined the group, he would be found shot to death in that very car. And even though C-Day had been talking to Trix on Twitter, seemingly on friendly terms only days before his death, right after Trix's death, he would seemingly deny that he had even known him, and would then even claim that Trix wasn't even part of 600, calling him an innocent bystander. Later, C-Day would repeatedly dish Trix on Twitter, saying that he didn't care about him dying, despite being in the car with him just a day before his death. C-Day's motivation for denying Trix would get clearer in a tweet from the following year, where he claimed that the ops would get no points for killing him, because killing him was like killing a random druggie. Now this goes to show you just how harsh and treacherous the streets of Chicago can really be, because clearly Trix had love for his 600 brothers. Only a few months before his death, Trix had tweeted, "Free my savage C-Day," clearly looking up to him, and he was often seen wearing custom clothing with 600 written on it. Trix would even credit C-Day with initiating him into 600 and would show support for C-Day when he was in prison. However, some of the other members seemed to also be indifferent or disrespectful about Trix's death and repeated C-Day's claims that he was not a real member of 600. However, it wasn't the whole set who turned their back and denied Trix. Others like 600 Breezy and Tay 600 himself would seem genuinely sad about his death, and it's alleged that 051 members Freaky and Kiddo may well have been responsible for the murder of Trix. In the weeks leading up to the murder, Kiddo had actually tweeted offering a cash bounty for anybody who could give him the location of 600 members. And less than 48 hours before his death, Trix was seen reposting tweets that were taunting 051 Kiddo. And to further add suspicion that Kiddo was involved, around this time, his Twitter handle was changed to @TrixForDeadBDK. And then, shortly after the killing, 051 Kiddo was then seen dissing Trix and mocking his death, making the Black Disciple Killer hand sign cracking the trays in front of a box of cereal named Trix. Regardless of who specifically killed Trix, it's clear from a Twitter dispute between 051 Melly and Manny 600 that 051 claimed responsibility for this murder. Ultimately, 600 had many enemies in the neighborhood, and they'd be causing pain to 600 in both the streets as well as in drill music, which was becoming an increasingly important part of the Chicago gang scene. This is undoubtedly partly due to the national and even global breakthrough of drill music, which made many of the 600 members focus more on music than the streets. On the 4th of November 2012, prominent 600 member LA Capone would try his hand at music, releasing his first music video for the track Work, a song which shows LA's talent for rap with his confident delivery and immaculate flows, something he would continue honing into 2013. However, 600 weren't the only people making music, and over time, their various ops would also be making songs and dragging 600 members in their lyrics. In late November, Dusky the Man from MOB released his diss remix to Chief Keef's classic song Love Sosa, a track titled Hate Sosa. And in the song, Dusky disses 600, rapping that he can't wait to catch D Rose and that he's going to knock over the bricks, a reference to their earlier name Brick City. Going into 2013, the members' efforts in the music scene would begin to pay off big time, and for a moment, it truly seemed that 600 could become the biggest thing in Chicago drill. But unfortunately, right as things were beginning to take off musically, the war in the streets would ultimately end up claiming the life of 600's most talented rap prospect.